Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Hey everybody, before you jump into this week's Combat Sports UK podcast, I've got some exciting news for you. Do you want to look as stylish as Thomas Shelby when you train? Do you want to experience the comfort that can only be achieved by a cup of tea on a cold day? Well, good news for you guys. Ex-Martial has partnered with us, Combat Sports UK. They are the fastest growing brand in martial arts for a reason. They are making waves and taking practitioners with their slick, stylish, and hilarious designs that are fit for a king. From rash guards to shorts, streetwear, and more, Ex-Martial has got you covered. Ex-Martial is an extremely community-oriented brand, having given away over $50,000 in free gear last year alone, as well as sponsoring over 300 athletes. And if you shop using the code CSUK10 at checkout, you can get 10% off everything in store. That code again is CSUK10 at checkout. Go and check out xmartial.com and enjoy the fight.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Combat Sports UK podcast. You may notice that I am not Taylor. I am hosting the podcast from now on because Taylor has decided to move on. So we wish him the best of luck and we will miss him here. John's still here to give us his insights and his predictions, and he's here to debate me as well. So how's things, John?
Good. Yeah, probably happy Taylor's gone. You know, Brendan, you have some good takes as well. So it's a new beginning. So I'm glad. Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it, John. Thank you. So yeah, UFC 306 this weekend. It's the Sphere. It's one we've been looking forward to for a long time. It's kind of different, this one, because usually it's just the fights you're looking forward to. We all know what UFC production brings. It's usually pretty consistent in the sense that it's the same everywhere they go, but this is something different. Have you got any predictions for what the Sphere will look like? I know they've been very quiet to the media about what's going to happen. John, what's your thoughts? Do you think it'll just be like the fight shown on a big screen, or do you think they'll have different graphics that they're going to show? What's your thoughts on it?
I would assume there'll be different graphics. Like Dana has kind of teased us saying that there's going to be like the history of fighting in a Sphere. And I, for one, I'm a big hockey fan. I live in Canada, so the NHL draft was at the Sphere, and although it's not like a spectacle, it wasn't like a fighting show. It was more like, you know, someone goes on stage, announces a name, and the player goes up, takes a picture. I like the format. I think the NHL kind of rushed it in a way. Like the graphics were very basic, I would say. It was only like a hockey goal was there, and like if it was a trade was announced, there's an alarm going off and said trailer popped up. But it looked cool. You know, I really liked it. And assuming that the UFC put in over, I don't know how much, 30 million into the production, I'm prepared to be mind blown. And I either think it's going to be really cool, or it's just going to really suck. So it depends, you know, no one's done it. Props to UFC for trying it kind of forcefully. And we'll see how it goes. And we had a few people on Twitter saying it looks amazing. We had 2 screenshots of Dana with the media or the UFC team watching it. So there's only one way to find out. It's to see like the fights, to see how it happens. If it's going to work, if it's not going to be a distraction, and it's definitely going to be different. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very much looking forward to it. And I think you're spot on. I think we're either going to be blown away, or I think we'll be pretty disappointed with it. Fingers crossed we are blown away, and I'm excited for it. The main event of the night, Sean O'Malley taking on DVALISHVILI. What a fight this is going to be. What's your thoughts on this fight? First of all, do you think Mirab will be able to extend his streak to 11 fights unbeaten in the UFC, or do you think Sean O'Malley has got what it takes to they snipe him out and get him out of there? What's your thoughts, John?
Yeah, I said it a few podcasts ago before you were on, and we had a gent named Nathan on it. After watching O'Malley beat Sterling the way he did, and seeing how Merab fought Cejudo, my prediction was O'Malley's gonna knock this guy out. So I'm sticking with that. I don't think Merab gets hit. It's always that left hook running in, blitzing, and trying to do his own striking combinations. We all know Merab's game plan is push against the cage and try to throw 77 takedowns in within 5 minutes. Or this is the real test. We'll see if Merab's wrestling is more superior than Sterling, because Sterling wasn't able to do it in the first round against O'Malley. However, they did give the first round to Sterling that fight. We'll see if Merab can just continue on that for 5 rounds against O'Malley, who's who's seasoned now. He's defended his belt twice. He's defended his belt once now. He fought Sterling, fought Jan, he fought Cheeto twice. Like he's seasoned. He's in there. He's in the UFC. He showed he deserved to be a champion. Even if Cheeto wasn't deserving a title shot, he deserved it. He didn't deserve it. O'Malley picked him. He does have a loss against him, and he shut him out. Other than the last second body shot that O'Malley received, it was no contest that O'Malley was winning that. Merab, he definitely deserves a title shot, but I think he's one dimensional. So what was Merab's best win? Like, was it Peter Yan, where Yan was on the decline for a minute, like his confidence was lost? Was it Marlon
maybe in
Moraes?
there.
Cejudo, but like Cejudo's also right. Cejudo retired for 2 years, came back. Albeit he did have to get a split decision loss against Sterling. Like some people think he won, but dude was off for 2 years, got fat, was mostly coaching. So Rob couldn't even get him out of there. And again, he was facing a wrestler. Marlon Moraes almost finished him. It's just because Merab outworked him. And I think that's what Merab has to do here against O'Malley. But I don't know if he will be able to outwork O'Malley here.
I seen this crazy stat, and it was that if Merab attempts a few takedowns in this fight, which let's face it, he's going to, he will overtake the GSP for the most career takedowns in the UFC, and that's in half as many fights. I thought that was mind blowing. And the interesting thing about it as well is that this makes it seem as if Merab is unbelievable at takedowns, but he's actually not. He's got like a 43% takedown accuracy or 45% or around that mark, whereas GSP was up over 70%. So it's not as if Merab lands every takedown he goes for. It's just how relentless he is. And I think that's kind of the difference that we'll see between him and Sterling, because there's a lot of ones that saying it's not like for like, but they're saying O'Malley versus a grappler, and they're looking at the Sterling fight as a case study. And I think that can be done, but I think the difference here is going to be that I don't think Merab will stand and trade with O'Malley at all. I think as soon as this fight starts, he is going to take him down. Do you think he will stand and trade at all, or can you see him just literally going for the takedown straight away?
First 15 seconds, probably, because the fights obviously start on the feet, right? Yeah. And how many times have we seen Merab get hit and get rocked? We saw him against Cejudo, who's not a big power puncher, who's a wrestler. We saw him against Marlon Moraes on the decline. And Moraes is a big power puncher. Even against Ricky Simon, we saw him, kind of stand and trade with him until he got reversed and got choked on for the last minute of the fight. Peter Yan, I don't think he will. Obviously, he won't stand and strike, but luckily all the fights start on the feet, and it will go from there. See what O'Malley does against the takedown threat. But like you said, he has what was it, 43%? You said his takedown success rate is against compared to GSP. GSP knew when to throw for a takedown. He saw when it was the opening. Maybe the wrestling wasn't to the level in his era as it is today, but GSP did it in a smart way. And when he saw the opening, he did it. That's why it's such a 73%. That's crazy amount. That's almost 3 to 4. 3 takedowns on in 4 attempted. 43%. It's not even half. It's not even half. It's not even. I wouldn't say close. It's closer to 40% than it's to 50%. So Merab, we just know he is going for the takedown, and he is okay with holding you against the cage as he's trying to do a double leg and it's not succeeding. He's still gonna hold you up there and try to win the position battle instead of the damage battle.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. Merab, when I think about Mirab, I think the big difference between him and O'Malley is fight IQ. I think we would both agree Mirab, his takedown or his relentlessness to get takedowns is there, and he is a winner. But his fight IQ doesn't seem to be great. You know, like as you say, it doesn't seem to be the best at knowing when he will land a takedown, or if it's just spamming takedowns for the sake of it, because there's what he's used to. Something interesting that is coming into this fight. Did you see everything about the cut that Mirab had above his eye?
Yeah. Yeah, of course we all seen that. I don't think there's nobody who hasn't seen that.
And I was very, very stupid by Mirab, in my opinion, putting that on Twitter and things like that. And I know Dana wasn't happy with him as well. But I suppose the interesting way to look at it is O'Malley has touched on it himself. Will he aim for this cut? And do you actually think that will play a factor in the fight? Because we've seen these kind of cuts open before. You know, you get a few stitches in it, and yes, it heals over, but it can take a few months for the scar tissue to properly grow over. So do you think this is something that O'Malley will be targeting? He is a pinpoint striker, and if there's anyone in that division that could focus on a couple of inches diameter on someone's face and land a punch right on it, it is Sean O'Malley.
I think O'Malley is always going to aim for his face when he does the striking, right? Especially above the eye. But I think now we just know there's been damage there. It's been opened 2 weeks ago now. It's been done with stitches. He took out the stitches himself, like Dana said, with the
massive scissors.
Yeah, not massive scissors, with gardening scissors, apparently. So we know it's there. It's just the threat now is more realistic. It's like we know O'Malley is a sniper. He is a sniper. I don't think even if it's not with a punch, O'Malley's knees are also great. Look what he did to Cheeto. He landed around the chin. You don't think O'Malley could probably adjust? Morales probably the same, a bit shorter than Cheeto, if I'm not mistaken. Then he'll definitely probably just throw the knee a little bit higher and catch that right above the eyelid, right above the eye, around the forehead area. Like that's definitely gonna affect it. It's still kind of an open wound. Like he's still targeted. I think
it will, at this stage.
Yeah, I think it'll be a discussion for sure to like, hey, let's aim for that, but not specifically. But I don't see how O'Malley wouldn't like know that in the back of his head during the fight. Like you just got that open. I'm just gonna aim for that as well. Try to aim for it. Maybe not like just aim solely for it, but give it a few shots every few rounds and see how it happens.
Yeah, you made a very good point there in comparing it to the knee that O'Malley caught Marlon Vera, because that was in a similar scenario that we are going to see, in the sense that Vera was kind of coming in, and I don't know if he was looking for a takedown that time, but it definitely shot down, or it adjusted his body height anyway. Mirab is going to be doing that a hell of a lot. He's going to be doing it so much. And something that I think Mirab isn't actually very good at is closing the distance. We'll see him try and land takedowns from quite far away from his opponent. And O'Malley, he is the expert at distance management as well. So it will be interesting to see if Mirab does keep trying to land them takedowns from really far away, if O'Malley will be able to find that punch. But I think there's a very, very good chance that he does. Do you think in any world can Mirab finish Sean O'Malley?
I mean, there's always, yes, it's MMA. There's always like, there's never 0% chance, right? I guess we could definitely see Mirab taking him down. I don't know if it'll be a TKO kind of, because I never seen Mirab taking somebody down just below so many shots that the ref would have to stop in. We haven't seen that except against Moraes, but Moraes was just completely dazed. Could he pull out submission? Maybe. I don't know. There's always been this talk that O'Malley's he's great on takedown defense. He has really good jiu-jitsu. We just haven't been able to see it in the UFC fight just because there was no reason for him to utilize it. Could this be it? We could see it. For him to use jiu-jitsu, but the question was if Mirab could finish O'Malley, I'll give it a 1% chance.
Yeah, I would agree in the sense that the chances are very, very low. Mirab has won the decision 9 out of his 10 UFC fights, which is a crazy stat, and it does kind of show a lack of finishing power, because you know the way that these guys are. Like Mirab has fought a lot of unranked and low-level fighters on his way through the UFC, and the fact that he couldn't finish some of these guys, I would say it's a worrying sign. And if he hadn't have beat Aldo, Cejudo, and who else did he beat in his last three? Aldo, Cejudo, and Peter Yan. Like if he hadn't have beat these three guys, I would have said based before that he's only won decisions. There's no way he can battle at the top, but he is in with a real chance here. This fight is a very, very tough one to call. I'll kick us off with my official prediction. I'm going to go for an O'Malley KO. I think he'll catch Merab. We kind of mentioned that. I think it'll be an uppercut or a knee in round 3. I think the first 2 rounds Merab will win. I do think he will land a takedown in the first, or maybe 2 takedowns over the first couple of rounds. And the interesting thing is as well that once Merab lands a takedown, will that round be his? What will Sean O'Malley be like trying to get back on his feet? Because it's very, very difficult to get Merab off you once he is on top, putting that side control pressure on, or even from guard. He even seems to put pressure on from half guard as well. So it will be interesting to see if Sean O'Malley can get back to his feet. But my official prediction is Sean O'Malley round 3 KO after losing the first 2 rounds. What are you going for, John?
Same thing. I think it's gonna go O'Malley KO. I don't even know he's gonna go past round 2. I really see it kind of like against Aljo. I really think O'Malley is gonna have the reads on Merab, get a few. Maybe Merab might get a 1 or 2 takedowns, but I think he's gonna definitely throw more than 2 takedowns. I don't know if he's gonna land. He probably could be able to land 5 takedowns within the round. I could see that happening. I could also see O'Malley getting right back up, but I do see him catching Merab early, kind of round 2-ish, and just finishing by TKO there. I don't think it's gonna be O'Malley. He's a precise puncher, but he hits hard as fuck. So it's sorry for swearing. I don't know if we're still allowed or not allowed, but he hits hard.
Okay, my book.
he hits hard, and he's gonna keep him down. I wish this fight could be somehow what we saw a couple of weeks ago with Gamrot versus Hooker, because it's kind of similar, right? Gamrot's a smaller fighter compared to Hooker. Hooker's more of a striker. Gamrot all wrestling. We'll see about that.
Yeah, and I think, the volume of takedowns that we've seen from Gamrot, I think even Merab will blow that out the water too. And we were saying that Gamrot was spamming takedowns in that fight. So
yeah,
it will be an interesting, but what a fight for the main event in this sphere. Moving on then to the co-main event of the evening, we've got the female flyweight title fight between Alexa Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko. These are 2 women that know each other very, very well. They've fought each other twice. They've done a full season of the Ultimate Fighter, coaching against each other. Obviously, 5 years ago, Grasso was able to beat Shevchenko. That was her first loss in 5 years. Last time out, it was a draw, a bit controversial. What was your thoughts on that last fight just before we go into this one? Do you think a draw was a fair decision? It all came down to that 10-8 round, wasn't it? There was a judge that gave it a 10-8 round from my memory, and Dana was saying after that he didn't think it was a 10-8 round, and it was very, very subjective. From memory, can you remember too much about that fight?
Oh yeah, I remember perfectly. I think it was Mexican Independence Day, right? It was the first time.
Yeah, that was it.
It was Grasso. It was someone gave a 10-8 rounds for the round 5 for Grasso. Guess Grasso won that round, but it wasn't domination. It wasn't like she completely blew Shevchenko out of the water. She ground and pound for 5 minutes straight. It should have been a 10-9 round, and which would have given Shevchenko the win. But because it was 10-8, it did a draw. I don't remember how many judges gave that, or was it only one judge made it. I wouldn't argue a split decision. You could have went either way, but giving 10-8 round last round for Grasso was ridiculous. She clearly did win that round, but not in dominant fashion. She did drop Shevchenko once. I don't remember if it was twice. Should rewatch that fight before their next fight. But either way, I see it going as 1-1 into this third one. I think it was a really good competitive for a second fight. First fight, obviously Shevchenko was winning, and then Grasso caught that submission, and we kind of see Grasso evolve since that first fight. In the second fight, she really brought Shevchenko. She dropped her a few times, gave her trouble, but I think I had Shevchenko winning 3-2. And I think Grasso clearly got the last 2 rounds, if I remember. She clearly got the last round. I remember what other round she got. She dropped Shevchenko early on somewhere else, so those are the 2 rounds she got. But flyweight division is very thin kind of division. The strawweight has way more action. Strawweight has way more action. Flyweight is kind of like it's them, Manu Fariat, and then kind of Rose is like wandering around there trying to get a title shot again. But it's good for the division that they're having a trilogy, and but I just hope it doesn't lead to like a Figueredo Moreno type situation where they fight each other for 17 times in 4 years, and eventually somebody has to move up or move down. So,
This
but
is
I'm
what I
intrigued.
was thinking.
Yeah.
This is what I was thinking earlier because obviously, like Grasso has a win and there's a draw. If Sachenko goes out and wins this, they are technically still even with a win each and a draw. So you could see that turn into a kind of Figueredo and Moreno scenario, but hopefully not. What I find interesting about this fight is that both of these girls can mix it up. They are both very good on their feet, and they can also take you down. Obviously Grasso coming from more of a boxing background, but she did get a rear naked choke win in the first round, and also in the last round, or sorry, in the first fight, in the last round of the last fight. You know, we've seen her take the back of Sachenko as well. So I think that's what's interesting. It's not exactly like a striker versus grappler matchup here. It could go any way. What do you think the best game plan for Grasso is? Do you think she shouldn't be scared to grapple with Sachenko? Sachenko's, in my mind, is more of a grappler that will take you down and maul you and kind of smother you, whereas Grasso is more like she might chase for the submissions a bit more. Yeah. So what's your thoughts? Do you think it would be smart for Grasso? They just try and keep it on the feet, keep boxing, or would you encourage her they try and grapple as well with Sachenko?
I would encourage her to do both because we did see Grasso drop Shevchenko. So you know you have the power to drop your opponent. And when you drop her, have an urgency to get a submission done. It's like exactly how you did in the first fight, how you saw an opening, you've been practicing it, you saw she's been doing it, and you did the submission. And also, especially if the fight right before you is a jiu-jitsu coach and Diego Lopez fighting, you kind of probably want to make him proud, especially if he's going to win. We all think he's going to win, to try to get another submission. And if you're Grasso, you want the urgency to get that win, to submit like, hey, I just beat the best flyweight of all time. Been champion for what, 3-4 years? No, way more now. 5. I want to say 6 years now. I think she got the belt in 2018. So either way, like you want to, yeah. I'll keep talking. So you want to cement that. So if I was Grasso's coach, I say stand the feet if you have to. You know you can drop her. Go on the ground. I think you could definitely submit her as we saw in the first time. So I wouldn't discourage her going anywhere, just as long as you're first.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. 5 years, Sachenko held it was 5 years she was unbeaten and held the title for her. So 2018 it was actually.
2018, so 6 years.
Yeah, 6 years. Shows how good my math is. So I think this is, it's going to be a very, very entertaining one. And I kind of hope Grasso does win, so it puts a closure in it. And as you say, it is a pretty light division. I thought Erin Blanchfield, that I always put her down to be the next big thing, but obviously she got beat by Fiorot. So what do you think of that fight? Do you think if Grasso fights Fiorot, is that the kind of next fight to neck if Grasso was to win?
I think it's clear. I think just to make it different, we need to see the winner face Fiorot. I think give the loser, if it's Shevchenko, if it's Grasso, give Grasso a break. You got the belt. You're fighting in 2 Mexican Independence Day. Like, you're a big star. I think give her a little break. Fiorot is there. Give Fiorot a chance to maybe change belts, and if not, then you can have the quadler. How do you call it? A fourth fight between Shevchenko and Grasso.
Yeah.
Quadler. I don't know. Something quad.
Something like that.
Quadlogy. I don't know.
Quadruple? So no, it's not.
Yeah. Just get Grasso. You win, no problem. You are the champ. You're not gonna. I will not be interested in another fight. Technically, you'll probably won. If you don't count as a draw, you won against her twice now. But if Shevchenko wins, I say Grasso take a break. See how the injuries work out too, because we could probably see an interim belt on the line, and then Fiorot's definitely the number 1 contender. But then it's going to be so many shades of Moreno and Figueredo. How Moreno wanted to interim against Kai Car France, fought Figgy 4 times. It's such a parallel, and they're both in the flyweight division, which is pretty funny too. So, I guess it also depends how the fight goes, because the last fight was pretty good, very competitive. It was Shevchenko deserved the rematch, right? She was champion for 6 years. So it just depends how this fight goes. But I feel like people will be really tired if we see another 4 fight rivalry between the same two people in flyweight division.
Yeah, I think whenever this happens, it's a bad look for the UFC nearly, because it kind of shows that there isn't enough depth in the roster there, or there isn't enough depth in sense of contenders to actually give a different option or a different fight. I'll let you go first with your official prediction for this one, John. What have we got?
I just want to chime in really quickly that there is a clear number one contender, right? Back in flyweight, there was no number one contender in the men's division.
Yeah, true.
Here we have
true.
Fariat, and they're
Fair
building up kind of Rose to get the title shot. Right? She beat everybody at the division except Fariat. Now she's facing Blanchfield in a fight night in Edmonton in Canada, actually. So
I actually forgot about that fight. That's a great fight.
that's a good fight, and I think that's her way of, oh, you beat Blanchfield, you're probably next. So they're probably trying to avoid that situation for a couple of years just to have people down the pipeline. But in terms of my prediction, I know I just said all that. We don't want to see that, but I do think Shevchenko's got this. I think Shevchenko, we can't doubt her. I think Shevchenko is going to win this by decision.
I will go against you this time. I'm going to go for a Grasso KO. I think late on.
Shit.
Yeah, I think our boxing's going to be too fast. I think Shevchenko is 36 now, so she is getting on, and
Yeah.
we have seen her lose a fair bit of pace in their past couple of fights, and I just think Grasso makes. I know it's not Mexican Independence Day, but it's a celebration of Mexico, isn't it? And as you say, she's got Diego Lopez on before her, and everything is kind of aligned for this to be Alexa Grasso's night, and I think she'll do it, to be honest. I'm going to go for a late KO because I think like the past 2 fights, it's going to be very, very tight. Maybe like Shevchenko could maybe win 2 out of the first 3 rounds, and then I think as it gets into the 3rd or the 4th round, I think Grasso's pace and kind of her youthfulness in comparison to Shevchenko. There's only maybe like, I think, what age is Grasso? Just to double check. I think she's like 31 or something. Yeah, so she's 31. So there only has 5 years between them, but the difference between 31 and 36 in MMA can be absolutely massive. So I think that's going to be the telltale sign late on. So my official prediction is a Grasso KO. I'll go for round 4. So the next,
just the amount of fights Shevchenko has been in too, in kickboxing, MMA too, and she's been pretty active. I could see why you say that. I wouldn't mind either person to win, but I think Shevchenko's got this.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. So we move on. This to me is one of the most exciting fights on the card. We've got Brian Ortega taking on Diego Lopez. I think when we're discussing this fight, you have to start with Diego Lopez. What this guy has done in the UFC since he has joined is unbelievable. He's the perfect example of getting a shot in the UFC and taking it by storm, because before that he did have losses. But obviously he lost his first UFC fight, his debut against Evloev, which that doesn't drop his stock too much. Evloev is a very, very good fighter, a very high-level fighter. He then went on to get 3 round 1 finishes in a row, a mix-up of submissions and KOs. And then obviously at UFC 303, then there was the whole commotion where this fight with Brian Ortega was meant to happen. Excuse me. This fight was meant to happen with Brian Ortega, and then it was crazy because on fight week, it got changed to a catch weight from memory. And then on fight night, Brian Ortega had to pull out. Dan Ige stepped in, and what a fight that was between Lopez and Dan Ige that night. Obviously, Lopez winning a unanimous decision. What have you made of Diego Lopez's career so far in the UFC, John?
Crazy. Honestly, crazy. And Lopez was also on the Contender Series, if I'm not mistaken. And did he lose or did he win? Wasn't he on the Contender Series? I'm making that up. It
I don't
doesn't
remember
seem.
him on the
I
contender
guess
series.
so. Somebody on the contender series was who won on the contender series beat Lopez in the past promotion. That's what I think I remember. But yeah, I think you summarized perfectly. Like taking the opportunity by storm. Uh, yeah, Mo Starlive. Yeah, we didn't beat him, but who is more memorable during that fight? Diego Lopez. You know, coming in with that hair, everyone was like, "Who is this guy with this like weird kind of emo mohawk, faux hawk type hair?" Coming in, almost finishing Lopez, almost finishing Mostar 3 times at the end of each round. And I think
Mhm.
we all know how boring of a fighter Mostar is, how he just wants to go for a takedown. No finishes. He's the complete opposite of Shafkat, who's 17 wins, 17 finishes. Mostar 16 wins, no finishes. And that gave Lopez opportunity. I think Dana liked him. If it could have been fight of the night for that UFC card.
That
If
was,
not,
yeah.
it was Saturday night, but I think that's really because of Lopez, of how relentless he was. He's striking, trying to finish him on the ground, trying jiu-jitsu wrestling type fight. Then he goes on, fights Gavin Tucker, first round finish. He knocked him down, caught the triangle submission. Sudi Youssef, Pat Sabatini knocked him out of nowhere too. We're like, okay, this guy's not just a jiu-jitsu practitioner. I mean, then the performance against Sadiq Yusuf was like incredible. You see 300, you're on the early prelims or prelims. You're just an exciting fighter. You're a fun name recognition now. And you knock Sadiq Yusuf, a striker, knock him out pretty well. Like, okay, Lopez is serious. And I think the reason he didn't knock out Dan Ige is also very versatile. He has a good chin. But I think the reason Lopez had to weigh in 3 times, right? The fight was scheduled for 145. So he had 145. Then the night of, he weighs in 155. So it's like, okay, you're cutting weight, then you're not cutting weight. And then he's weighing again to 165 the day of the fight, a couple hours before your fight. So when was announced? 3 hours that Ige was stepping in. And you could see it at the end of the fight, round 3. It was getting to him. It was definitely, he was getting tired. That's why he wasn't pushing the pace as much. But I think something clicked in Lopez's mind, being probably surrounded with UFC for this long. I think he trains with Grasso. He goes Mexico PI. I see him in Vegas a lot. Something clicked that made him such a better fighter. He's still young. He's in his 20s. He's 29, so he's literally in his prime. His losses come in before his prime against men. I don't know who he faced, but I don't want to do assumptions. But sure, he lost, but now he's coming to his prime. He's in the UFC at the right time. I did have a prediction he was going to fight for the title by the end of the year, at the beginning of this year. So we'll see if that could still happen, depending how Max Topuria fights and if Volkanovski is still there. But I think Lopez wins, he gets a title shot. I think he's been undeniable, unstoppable. Yes, he hasn't had the level of competition, but so did Topuria. Topuria beat Emmett as his best win. He beat Jai Herbert right before that, and then he got a title shot after beating Josh Emmett. So I think he's definitely gonna leapfrog Mosar Evlev. Sterling's up there too. He's fighting Evlev too a few months after, but he has the power since he's fighting first. He's fighting Ortega, who's good fighters coming off a win too. But I mean, or Lopez is a different animal. It's he fights. His fights are very fun. He has a good name recognition. He's fun outside the cage, and I don't know anybody who hates him. Who was like, "Oh, Lopez is fighting." No, people are like, "Oh, Lopez is fighting. Let's go."
He is just one of them fighters where he gets everyone off their seats.
Yeah.
And as you say, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say a bad word or a bit of disrespect about Diego Lopez. You were right. He lost in the contender series in 2021.
2021. Yes. So that's why.
So he lost
Yes.
in the contender series, won and had a load more fights, and then got a UFC debut. But that there just shows you how much of a U-turn his career took whenever he joined the UFC. You know, the fact that he was losing on the contender series and probably thought that his luck was out after that, as he went back to his former promotion and had a good few fights there. Obviously, Brian Ortega, this will be no easy matchup for him whatsoever. Brian Ortega is a guy that's only lost, he's only lost at the very highest level. His losses are against Holloway and Volkanovski, and then injury against Yair Rodriguez. So outside of Holloway and Volk, really, like we've never seen anyone get the better of Brian Ortega. What's your thoughts on it? Do you think it's kind of a funny one because I thought, and especially after the commotion of the last fight week for Ortega Lopez, I thought Brian Ortega was moving up to lightweight. I had heard rumors of that and I'd seen it rumored on Twitter. And this was before the fight was originally announced with Diego Lopez at featherweight. And I was kind of surprised at that. And then whenever the whole goings on about him struggling to make weight, and I know he was ill as well, but I think a lot of that illness came from struggling to make weight. I thought he is a cert to move up to lightweight now, but he still seems to be at featherweight. Can you see, obviously, I think from here, you think Lopez is going to win. How much of a chance would you give Brian Ortega? Do you think it's the Brian Ortega of old? I heard him talking about the quote about the eagle before, where the eagle has to go and nest and rebuild all his feathers. And if it works out, that quote will go down, or that video I'm talking about, that will go down as one of the most motivational speeches from a fighter out there. If he can rejuvenate his career and get back to the top, do you think he has it in him?
Not so, no. I'm giving the same amount of chances that Marab has to finishing O'Malley, 1%.
Really?
Yeah. I think Ortega is I think Lopez is today's Ortega in a way. We saw Ortega in the Reebok shorts, right? So he's been in the UFC for a minute, although he hasn't been fighting for a long time either. Like he's been off for like a couple of years at one point, and like how's this guy still ranked and all that? Like he got beat up by Max Holloway in his title shot. Then he beats a Korean zombie where he also again struggled to make weight. I remember if you guys, he had really long hair. If you guys remember, he shaved it off, and he took Korean zombie to a decision. Sure, that's okay. Then he got beat up by Volkanovski. Ortega in title shots just did not match well. I think that's because he just looks like he's been hit by 7 trucks. Then yeah, he goes on to fight Rodriguez, gets an injured, so we know, and this guy's injury prone so much. He's always injured, especially. And then when the rematch was Rodriguez in Mexico, he almost 10-8 him. He 10-8 himself when he jumped up and rolled his ankle, and we thought the fight there was going to be over. And he lost round one, Yair Rodriguez. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure I gave Rodriguez a 10-8 round. He got 10-8 back to back in the Bruce Buffer introducing him, and then round one against Yair Rodriguez. Props to him for coming back and outworking Rodriguez and somehow getting that the triangle choke on him, the arm triangle. But I just don't. I think Lopez is just a different beast. I think Lopez is faster, stronger. He hits harder. He doesn't have the kicks of Rodriguez, but he has a much bigger power. As evidently we saw him knocking down his last 2 of his last 4 opponents, knocking out one of them completely to the ground, not being able to do anything with Sadiq Youssef. So I think Ortega's biting off too much he could chew. And I think the rumor you heard of him going 155 is from Ortega. He was saying he was bulking up to make 155 in a future fight, and then he's like big payday to fight Lopez. I don't know if he wants they offer him the same amount of money to fight Lopez again, but I do see Ortega going to 155 because his only chance to getting a title shot again is if he wins Lopez. He might get a title shot, sure, but if Holloway is the champ, I don't know if people are going to be excited to see you get beat up again, because I don't think Max has skipped a beat since then, and Ortega looks like he has kind of skipped. And Topuria, I mean, you saw what he did against Volk, against Emmett. I think a guy like Ortega who doesn't take. I don't think the guy who takes punches well like that, he's going to survive. So I think his best chance is at lightweight. Not that lightweight's a weaker division, but like if you look at the champ, Islam Makhachev, like yes, he has knocked out Volk as well. But it's going to be a fun, like a wrestling jiu-jitsu type fighter. See how he does bulked up at lightweight. And like, isn't Max just scarier now too? What he did to Gaethje at 155, and you think you just could just prance to 155 and do what he did, or like face him in a title shot 145. It just Ortega is in such a difficult spot for him right now that win or loss, I don't know where he goes from here. Unless he wins, of course, first round knockout impressively, or first round submission, flying triangle choke, definitely you'll give him the title shot or something. But it's tough. It's tough to see for Ortega right now.
I think you made a good point there as well. It kind of highlights the difference in mindset, or the difference in stages of career that these two are at. Diego Lopez up and coming. Not that he needs to win this, but to keep the momentum going, he has to win this. Whereas for Ortega, you have to wonder, as you mentioned, he's obviously getting paid a shitload of money for this fight, or else he wouldn't be taking it. As you said, he himself said he was moving up to lightweight. Do you think he's kind of mentally checked out of featherweight? He will know that lightweight's always an option, whether he wins or loses here. Yes, it might change the fights he can have at lightweight, because if he gets beat here, would he even get a ranked fighter at lightweight if he gets beat here? I don't know. But there is fights there for him, whereas if he gets beat here on featherweight, there is no fights for him. I think that their mindset difference between the two of them and the stages that they're at in their career will play a big difference. Another interesting thing about this fight is that Lopez has good grappling. There is no, again, it's not a strike reverse grappler matchup here. Lopez jiu-jitsu, some are saying, and I would agree, it's nearly as good as Brian Ortega's. Brian Ortega doesn't have a path of least resistance here, but Lopez does. So I wonder, will Lopez take the path of least resistance? Do you think he will try and keep it on the feet, or will he seems like the type of guy that will be like, you're the jiu-jitsu guy, I'm going to sub you, and try and take him down and do that. What's your thoughts? Do you think he will be ballsy enough to take Ortega down and try and beat him that way?
I hope so. I think no matter where this fight goes, it's gonna be really fun. I think they're not like they're both the jiu-jitsu aces, but it's not like they're like, I don't know how to say this other. They're not like technical in a way. Of course, they're very technical, but they're fun. They always keep moving. They always want to move. They always trying to find something to grab, something to hold, and like keep moving around and try to surprise the other guy. Lopez has been in so many jiu-jitsu competitions too. I'm pretty sure he's a world champion or Brazil champion in jiu-jitsu. So you want to see that. They're funky like that. So you want to see how. Definitely want to see that. That's why when the fight got announced the first time at the International Fight, we were like, "Oh crap, this is so interesting. This is literally like they kind of match each other." But let's see, it's like who gets the upper hand in the grappling exchanges and the jiu-jitsu movements and when they roll around together. So it's gonna be, I think, like I said earlier, I think you can't go wrong anywhere you go. But I think for the fans, it would be really, really fun if we have a little grappling sequence between them, because I think it's gonna be I don't want people kind of look down upon the grappling and wrestling type stuff, but I think this is the fun type of grappling where it's going to keep moving. One guy's going to be on top in 1 second, and the next second they're going to be on the bottom. They're going to use a wizard to get up, and then there's going to be a fun event, fun sequences like that. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing. And who has the better submission? Who's the better fighter overall? Actually,
I think this here style of grappling is not going to be the Dagestani drag you down and maul you style. It's going to be the style that we maybe seen Arman Sarukian and Gamrot, was it? That that very exciting, very fast scrambles. 1 minute a guy's on top position, and next minute he's on bottom position. I think if this does go to the ground, I think that is what we'll see. And as you say, I really hope Lopez does do that, because it would be very tempting for Lopez here to come out and really want that first round finish. And as much as Ortega does have a really good chin, like Lopez is powerful. Ortega's getting a bit older. This weight cut, as we've mentioned, is going to be brutal. So his chin might be a bit depleted. It might, he might be a bit more chinny than usual. They put it in these simple terms. So I hope Lopez doesn't go down that route in the path of least resistance, and we do see him grapple Ortega. And if that means this fight lasts a round or two longer than what it would if he just kept it standing, I would sacrifice that, because I think Lopez out grappling Ortega. I think that's a bigger statement than knocking him out in the first round, and in my opinion. Time for the official prediction. I'll kick us off for this one. I'm going for I'm going to go for a Lopez decision. I know that contradicts everything as I've just said, but I think he will grapple, and I don't know if he will be able to sub Ortega. I think if Lopez was to keep it on the fight, I think he would get a finish. But as I mentioned before, he's not that type of guy. He will want to out grapple the jiu-jitsu black belt and the jiu-jitsu specialist. Um, so I'm going for a Lopez decision win, and it's just because Ortega is a dog, and yes, he is cutting weight, but we've never seen him finished apart from the Max Holloway fight. So, what's your official prediction on this one, John?
I was hoping I would surprise the people, but I'm going the same thing. I was thinking Lopez decision too, but I think it's gonna be like such a dominant win. We're gonna kind of feel bad for Ortega, not like the style of Holloway and Volkovsky did to him, but to Ortega's credit, he only lost to the former champions, or Holloway and Volk, in a title shot. He lost to Rodriguez due to injury, so it wasn't really a loss. It was 30 seconds into the fight. Depends how you consider a loss is, but it's a loss in his record, but it wasn't really. So Ortega could still hang in there, but I think it's gonna be a beating. I think it's gonna be a beating for 3 rounds. It's gonna be a step behind. Ortega might land a few good shots here and there, but I think Lopez is just too good, smart, and strong for Ortega, and he's gonna cruise to a decision here.
Yeah, we're pretty much on the same page with that one. So we move on to a fight which is one that shocked a lot of people that it's on this card, and it shocked me, to be honest. It's Daniel Zellhuber taking on Esteban Ribovics, and this fight is going to be a banging fight. These guys are very, very good fighters, and they're both kind of at similar stages of their career. Obviously, Zellhuber is a young Mexican coming through the ranks. He got a win in the Contender Series, so did Ribovics. They're both Contender Series prodigies. So, do you think they've put this fight on this card to use it as an opportunity? And I think there's some similar in the next fight too, but we'll talk about this one. They use it as an opportunity to put Zellhuber, they push him through the ranks and really try and build a new star coming out of Mexico. Because if you look at the Mexican fighters outside of Diego Lopez, I think they're all kind of at the latter stages of their career. If you take Grasso, obviously she's champ at the minute, but she's not a young up and comer. Moreno, who was one of the biggest, is kind of at the latter end of his career as well. And there isn't really too many other big names coming out of Mexico. So do you think that's why this fight is on this card? They try and push the young Mexican fighters coming through their rankings?
Absolutely. But I think you're forgetting a name, Raul Rosas Jr.
I forgot about him.
But yeah, who is actually, he's the very first fight of the night. He's on the early prelims. So I'm surprised in a way that, yeah, because we've really seen Raul Rosas Jr. being on the main card of a pay-per-view, if I'm not mistaken, opening the card up, and then now we see Daniel Zellhuber being on the main card, but not even opening, as it's the second fight of the main card. So it's definitely I think they're just trying to, like, if there's any other pay-per-view, they wouldn't be on there, but I think because this is a Mexican Independence Day fight card, they're obviously getting Daniel on this card. But he's still a good fighter. He's still a fun fighter. Like this, I see this. The next fights, 2 fights, are potential fight of the nights for me. I think they're really both fun to watch, and especially like Irene Aldana and Norma Dumont, who are both ranked in the bantamweight division of the women's. They're not even on the main card, so it's interesting positioning. I think you should probably get Mexican stars on the rise. But he's not fighting he's not fighting a bum like Esteban Ribovics. If you remember his last fight, I think he has probably a knockout of the year contender. The way he knocked out Terrence McKinney within,
that was the head kick, wasn't it?
That was the head kick in St. Louis. Like, clean head kick. Sat down Terrence McKinney and had this weird, like, back against the cage, kind of out cold. So they're both fighters to watch. It's see how they can be motivated to push off. Hey, you're on the main card of a pay-per-view at the Sphere. Get a fan base going. Get some name recognition. Because since the UFC, that Daniel has lost, got a decision, got a knockout, got a decision. So he's got to And before that, he's been just doing finishes as well. He's been doing a lot of first round finishes before doing his and getting to the UFC. So he has to get back to that.
Yeah, I think something that's going to be key here as well is the reach difference in these guys. Zell Huber, last pod I was on was the last pay per view. We talked about Protez. And I kind of think Zell Huber, I don't think he's as good as Protez, but he's similar in the sense that he will have a reach advantage over most people in the lightweight division. I know Protez was welterweight, but he's got a 77-inch reach, which is 8 more than Esteban Ribovics. Like, that's huge in the lightweight division. It's not like sometimes a big reach in heavyweight or light heavyweight, they've got different body shapes or different body types, whereas lightweight, they'll have similar statures, but Zell Huber will have 8 inches more. He's a very, very rangy fighter, uses a hell of a lot of kicks. In my opinion, I think Esteban Ribovics, he has to crowd Zell Huber. He has to be able to stop him from getting his kicks off. It's something that we've seen. Leon Edwards is a guy that prioritizes kicking, and he's very, very good at it. Bilal Muhammad, how he was able to take him down repetitively was by closing that distance and crowding him. Mm-hmm. And I think Zell Huber is there to be caught. I think sometimes he keeps his chin high. We have seen him kind of get caught before. I went back to watch his Contender Series fight earlier, and in that first round, like, his chin was very, very high, and he was there to be hit. Ribovics has very, very heavy hands. Do you think this will be an all-standing affair? Do you think it'll be trading back and forth, or can you see them mixing up with some grappling? I think the most likely they grapple is probably Ribovics, but what do you think?
No, I think Zell Huber has to use his reach advantage, height wise, and the length of his arms. You have the advantage. You're 6'1" against 5'10". You're 77 inch reach advantage. Like, you gotta use that, kind of stay on the outside and make Esteban close the distance. I mean, you see he has crazy power, he has crazy kicks. If you land on Terrence McKinney like that, but Terrence McKinney is a bit shorter than Daniel, so yeah, I think we might see a little bit of grappling eventually if Esteban can't find his range from being shot up in the outside and can't blitz in and find it. I think Esteban will eventually lead and try to get a double takedown, a double leg takedown, especially on a guy who's so much taller. It's a bigger fall for him, so should be easier, and then try to get positioning on top.
Yeah, I think for my official prediction on this one, I'm gonna go a bit out there. I know Zell Huber is the favorite, so I'm gonna pick the dog. I'm gonna go for a Ribovics submission, and I'm going to talk you through why I think this one. So he's looked very, very good. His Kimuras are dangerous. He's picked up a couple of Kimuras wins, and from watching his tape again, is something that he goes for quite a lot. And I think if he is successful in closing the distance between him and Zell Huber on Saturday night, he could back him up against the cage. And you can see Kimuras kind of, not that you land them from standing, but you can use them to pull in the guard, or you can use them for a takedown, that kind of 2-on-1 grip. And it's a very specific prediction, but I think that's what Ribovics is going to do. I don't think he's got any kind of, yes, he is powerful, but he needs to really work hard to get on the inside. They have a chance on the fight. If he does get on the inside, I think it's worth just trying to pressure Zell Huber up against the cage, because Zell Huber has looked good at creating angles, and I've seen him fighting smaller guys before where they do get on the inside, but he's very good at adjusting, and his distance management is good. He uses them kicks. They really push them out there and keep the distance between them. So I'm going for a Ribovics sub. What have we got for this one, John?
I also got Ribovics, but I have him by knockout. I think it's going to be a TKO. I think he's going to catch. He's pretty even. He has one decision win only and seven KOs, 5 submissions. I know he had Kimuras. I just saw the last Kimuras in 2017. If he wants to bring that back, I wouldn't mind seeing Kimura, but I do see him kind of knocking him out. It's kind of like a power puncher versus a point fighter, striker type matchup. So I do think Ribovics will get like the advantage and get a TKO, catch him, and then quickly get some few ground and pounds to make the ref stop the fight.
He will be there to spoil the party. I'm sure that will be his plan. So we move on to the main card opener then. We've got Ronaldo Rodriguez taking on Ode Osborne in the flyweight division. I want to preface this by saying, I'm going to let my anger out a wee bit here. Ode Osborne opening up the Sphere card. What's your thoughts on this, John? We were told at the time, Dana White came out of his own mouth, said that this card was going to compete with UFC 300. UFC 300 with Cody Garbrandt, and who did Garbrandt fight at 300? It was a banging fight. Figueiredo opening up the whole card. For the Sphere, we've got Ode Osborne. So I'm not meaning to shit on him here too much, but he's a guy that's coming off 2 losses in a row. Obviously, Ronaldo Rodriguez, I understand why he's on the card, but again, he is unranked. But similar to the Zale Huber, they're obviously trying to push through a Mexican fighter, and it's got the Mexican branding on it and stuff like this. So I can kind of understand it. Do you think this is a layup fight for him? This is only our second time seeing him in the UFC, and he is opening up a main card of potentially, like, this is a one and done scenario in this Sphere. Like, they've spent 20 odd million on this, and they've got someone like Ode Osborne on the main card opener. He's not on it because of him. He is on it because of his opponent, which tells me everything I need to know. That tells me that this is kind of like a layup for Ronaldo Rodriguez. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
I like the UFC 300 comparison, but you compared to the wrong fight. I think who opened the main card? Do you remember?
It was Bo Nickel and Brady. Was no, not
Cody
Brady.
Brundage.
Brundage.
And was it because of Cody Brundage they were on the main card?
No, it was Bo Nickel. You make a very fair point.
Exactly the same situation. I think this guy is like on the come up, but like on a fast come up. Like Luis Rodriguez, he as a flyweight only has one decision win. Everything else was he has 3 decision wins, but 5 submissions, 7 TKOs. Like, he is a finisher. And Mexican fighters that are popular are usually the smaller weight classes, even in boxing. It's never been like Andrew Ruiz in the heavyweight division of boxing was never like a superstar. And I can't remember anybody in the past, but you always remember Canelo. You remember
Moreno.
I'm blanking on everybody right now, but like, who's the guy Dana hates right now in boxing?
Oscar De La Hoya.
Oscar De La Hoya, right? Like, so all those, they're all smaller weight classes. Obviously, 125 is the smallest for the men division, but I mean, who's better to follow than Moreno, first Mexican champion at flyweight, who is at the tail end of his career, has been a champion, has been a fun guy to watch, and now Luis Rodriguez gets to follow that footsteps. Is like, you have the blueprint. You literally have the blueprint in front of you. Go get it. You are opening the main card. I think everybody expects here a first round finish or some sort of finish here early on. And then you're going to be main eventing some fight night just to, or get a ranked opponent soon. And then, especially the flyweight division being so thin that like you could see the number 10th, as in Steve Erceg, facing the champion. So you could definitely, if it's your second fight, you're opening the main card against, let's face it, not the best opponent in the division. You can definitely make yourself a name right now and then keep climbing up. You should make it look easy. That's all I'm trying to say. He has to make it look very easy and put the house on a Rodriguez finish.
What round are you saying? Is this your official prediction? Rodriguez finish?
Round 1.
Round 1.
I've
got the same.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to go for a rear naked choke finish. Osborne coming off 2 rear naked choke losses. Rodriguez coming off a rear naked choke win. I think he's better than him on the feet. He's better than him at grappling. I don't think there's an area here where Ode Osborne can really outwork Rodriguez, to be honest. So my official prediction is he's going to take him down and get a rear naked choke in round 1. Do you think it'll be on the feet, or do you see a submission in round 1?
No, I think it's going to be however Rodriguez wants it. I think, makes sense. If Ode Osborne lost 2 in a row with rear naked choke, I don't see, or he lost his last fight in rear naked choke, I don't see him not losing rear naked choke. The funny part too, Ode Osborne, did he open up that Cerrone and Conor card as well in the main card?
Yeah,
he did against Brian Kelleher.
Yeah, that's right. That's
And then
right.
he lost by guillotine choke. So he lost by guillotine choke. So it's quite interesting how he keeps finding his way onto the main card of a pay-per-view.
You do wonder why, don't you? So I
I think we know
suppose,
why. I don't think we
yeah,
want to
well,
say
yeah,
it.
yeah. So the prelim fight I wanted to discuss was Raul Rosas Jr. Obviously, we've touched on it already, opening up the card. As you say, very, very interesting placement. You know, he could have opened up. I think he's actually opening up the full card. He is on the early prelims, technically, isn't
Yep.
he?
He's
Yeah,
on
I
the
think
very
that,
first fight. Yep.
yeah, so
According to Topology uh
uh,
order, he's the very first card, very first
yeah,
fight.
I think
We could
that
see a
is.
change like they did versus Cop and Makaev, who was supposed to be main card, and they switched it up. So we could still see a change, but I'm surprised that it's their first fight.
He is fighting Lang. I always just abbreviate his name to Lang because I butcher it every single time. Uh, again, I don't like saying that it's a layup, but it's a very, very winnable fight for Rosas Jr. It's not Rosas Jr. I get that he is young, but we're not really seeing a massive step up in opponents or in level of opponents. Just quickly, what do you think? He's like a 1-8 favorite going into this. He's a massive favorite. I know I've done that in UK odds. It's different for Canadians and Americans, but he's going in as a massive, massive favorite. Do you see him just getting his way, similar to Rodriguez? Do you think he's just going to walk through Lang?
Yes, I think the UFC is kind of smart in building him up. I understand, like, oh, you want to see him fight the best, but dude's only 19. He literally just turned 19. They signed him at 17. He's been in UFC for like a year and a half. Like he just turned 18 when he got to the UFC. Now he's 19. Like he's literally a teen. He still has a one as his first number in his age. Like he still has time. He's not even in his prime of his of his athletic career. And and I don't know about you, but I do feel like I saw him from against Ruburios. Was it where his last fight was against Ruburios? Rubios?
Mm. He
That
got the
he
loss, and then he's won two since, hasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, but against Ricky Turkios, he seemed like he bulked up a little bit. Like he seemed like he finally got some muscle, and it's not that little teenager body he has. Pause. But I think he finally growing into kind of into a man, right? He's still a teen, so you gotta give him time. And he's faced people like who are actually men, so gotta give him time, get the wins. I don't think it hurts him that he builds up his record. Yeah, he was 8-0 when he got to the UFC. Now he's 9-1, or he was 7-0. Get some wins. I wouldn't mind seeing him getting to like 15-1 until he fights a ranked opponent. And then how it would look so much better 15-1. He's like 23, 24 years old, not even in his athletic prime yet. And then he's going to be ranked and slowly build up because we could see him as a champion for many years if he gets the proper training because he's still learning. He has amazing jiu-jitsu. We know that. It is the striking has to really improve. Has to be better. He needs a more of a finishing instinct, I'd say. He did, yes, he did finish his last two opponents, all of his opponents in the UFC, but he needs more of a urgency to do it, I would say. More of an instinct. I know just not with jiu-jitsu, trying to work your way, not just go for a takedown, be more exciting. And I'm really not impressed with Lang at all. I think if you just gotta look at his opponents, the record of his opponents combined is completely awful. I don't know why he's in the UFC, to be honest. I guess he's has the potential of knocking out people, but like, yeah, that's what I would say about that.
I'm fairly confident we'll be hearing a chee wee on the microphone
Yeah.
after. Very quickly, just before we finish, we can't do this pod without mentioning some of the biggest news from MMA last week. One of the GOATs, Mighty Mouse, has retired. He's the first UFC flyweight champion, most consecutive title defenses in UFC history, most UFC submissions and title fights. He's tied with John Jones for most title defenses without the PEDs and the drugs, and one AFC champion. An all round, he's just an all round great mixed martial artist. And the most impressive thing about Mighty Mouse to me is he's a guy that done it his way. He didn't bow down to the UFC brass. They were telling him that he wasn't entertaining enough. They were not promoting him. And, you know, the flyweight division as a whole, he had dominated that much that they were thinking about sacking it off until Cejudo beat him. What have you got to say about Mighty Mouse as he's retired from MMA?
Well, I mean, what a career! What a career for Mighty Mouse. If people think about GOAT conversation, he should be at least top 5, if not your top 4 Mount Rushmore type people. It just, you know how everybody compares, like if Mighty Mouse was, we're all lucky Mighty Mouse is not like 6'4" or at least 6 feet tall, because then everybody will get fucked up because the skill level this guy has, the IQ, the fight IQ this guy has. Never failed a PED as a champion for so long in two different organizations, and that was like in the era where people were taking TRT. The USADA wasn't established yet. Like, the credit this guy needs to get is incredible, which I'm glad what I'm seeing on the internet. You know, I think all of his losses were avenged. You know, he didn't have the chance to beat Cejudo a second time, but he did win against him once.
He did win the first time.
He won the first time. He got a split decision, lost the second time, right? So you could argue he won. And, you know, he goes to another organization against Moraes, who's probably almost 6 feet, 5'10", who's much taller than Demetrius Johnson. You know, he got knocked out by the knee with him, and then he right back at him, and the rematch goes and knocks him out, beats Rotang. Albeit Rotang is not a MMA guy, but you know, he stood with him during Muay Thai. He still
had to survive that there round 1. And he
survived.
actually and he done more than survive, he competed.
He competed. He took the shots. We know Rotang hits like a truck as well. He competed, he threw some back, and then we showed the difference between MMA and Muay Thai, got the submission. But overall, just one of the greatest careers. I think it's the type of career where once he's retired, now he's not gonna be fighting. We're gonna look back at it like how more of amazing it was. And then shout out to the flying armbar submission he had against Ray Bork.
What a moment, and what a moment they finish on. John, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. I look forward to reviewing the fights. Hopefully we're reviewing a banging card. So we'll be back next Monday or Tuesday with a review. So thanks for listening, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.
See you guys.